A University of Pennsylvania law professor has been punished for her statements about black students. She said, originally penned an op-ed which drew some controversy. She went on she Skyped into a talk show to kind of clarify her remarks. Here is what she said.
I don't think I've ever seen a black student graduate in the top quarter of the class, and rarely in the top half. I can think of one or two students who've scored in the top half in my required first year course. Well, what are we supposed to do about that? That you're really, you're putting in front of this person a real uphill battle. And if they were better matched, it might be a better environment for them. That's the mismatch hypothesis, of course. We're not saying they shouldn't go to college. We're not saying that.
Do you have
some of them should? Some of them shouldn't.
Do you have a racial diversity mandate for law review appointments at Penn?
Yes.
So you're telling me that students of color who have served on law review are pretty much in the bottom half of their law classes at Penn?
I would have to what I know. I mean, I haven't done a survey. I haven't done a systematic study. I'm talking about who gets the honor. I have a big, I have a class of 89, 95 students every year. So I see a big chunk of students every year. I'm going on that because a lot of this data is, of course, a closely guarded secret, as you can imagine.
Sure. So what was the fallout of that? According to the Washington Post, Amy Wax, the tenured professor in question, will continue to teach electives in her areas of expertise, but will be removed from teaching first-year curriculum courses, implying she will no longer be teaching required courses for all students to take.
This kind of confuses me because, what she said might suck. But first of all, whatever stats, because I think she provided some stats in the story that they were trying to figure out whether they were correct or not. If she's just providing stats, what's the? Are we shooting the messenger?
No. So that's a great question because I actually in the beginning thought the same thing. When I remember reading the headline yesterday, actually going, well, it totally depends. So it depends on if she's saying, look, I think that African American students are not finishing the top half of the class, and I think we should find ways to fix that.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And so here is some of the issues, and here's maybe more help we can get, not just necessarily even for African American students, but from students who came from a poor socioeconomic background who have some catching up to do rather to the kids who went to private schools, et cetera, et cetera. So I was really looking forward to reading to see which one it is. But Gina, in her case, it doesn't look like that's the direction she went. So let me explain why. First of all, let's note the irony. She's still going to teach classes in her area of expertise, which is social welfare law and policy. Okay, I'm not sure that now that I've read totally into her background, I'm not sure she cares a lot about that, or if she does, she's got a curious way of showing it. So she said that. And by the way, there's another comment that could start out as an interesting topic, especially in a campus, to have a discussion around. She said all cultures are not equal. I actually agree with that, and we've talked a lot about on this show. But if you mean actual cultures and portions of cultures as opposed to races, right? And now to be fair to her, she, and we'll see if you think this is fair or not, because I'm just going to quote her. She says that there's problems with cultures of some working class whites. Rap culture of inner city blacks, and anti-assimilation ideas among Hispanic immigrants that are destructive to American democracy. And now, so it seems like she's got an issue with poor people overall, okay? And in fact, she says that we should return to the 1950s posture, there's a quote, 1950s posture of celebrating bourgeois culture.
Yeah.
So, and she said that over and over again. She's like, bourgeois culture is great. Like, okay, but can we give poor folks an opportunity to reach it, right? So that's a different conversation, but she didn't leave it at that. She also talked about how academics, the media, and Hollywood have to, quote, relinquish multicultural grievance polemics. So meaning like, oh, the minorities that are complaining should basically shut up about it. And she went on to say that everyone wants to go to countries ruled by white Europeans, and quote, I don't shrink from the word superior. So when you say you're for supremacy, you can't blame people for saying you're for supremacy. There's a different word for that too. It's called racist. So now racist is a super loaded word. I wish she was a more nuanced intellectual that could engage in an interesting conversation rather than white people are awesome, don't you want to go to their countries and they're superior to you?
And there are more nuanced intellectuals and academics who have pointed to the racial disparities in law school outcomes. And one of those was a black professor at Yale named Richard Brooks, who called it a real and serious problem, but he also called on educators to be involved in finding the solutions. And I think that's part of what you were saying. You know, when you have a teacher like this who is making these kinds of comments, racial bias in grading comes to mind, and it calls into question her credibility as a professor, whether or not she can fully do that fairly. Also, you know, socioeconomic situations that might put certain minority students at a disadvantage, and we know that the debt balance, the debt, it affects minority students differently than it affects white students. And also there's the issue of social capital and minority students not having role models in their lives who can walk them through some of the challenges of law school and show them what the image of a successful lawyer or someone who works in a legal profession looks like. So I think it's just a way of like oversimplifying, which is what people like her, provocateurs on the far right, love to do. Someone online compared her to an Ann Coulter, which of the academic world, which I think was pretty appropriate.
Yeah, later on in the interview, she does go through like the kinds of situations in schools that she would endorse, and she endorses one thing that gets closer to like, you know, changing outcomes to make people more equal, and it's no excuses schools. Which is like I
wouldn't do well there.
Well, it's no excuses, and it's the kind of schools. And I've just been reading up on this, and I haven't been to any of these schools, so but I did find an op-ed from someone at the education school at the University of Pennsylvania that said there is no excuse for no excuses schools, and it's the kind of schools where like kids have a lanyard around their neck with a card on it, so that teachers who think that those kids are acting poorly can go up and just write a demerit on your card. It says that from the time the kids wake up to the time they go to sleep, their behavior is being judged. And the criticism from this person at the Education Institute or the Education Department at the University of Pennsylvania said it immediately treats kids at those schools as less than, as criminals, as someone they're inmates. Yeah. They're inmates from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. And people like Amy Wax would say, well, it gives them a structure. And you just see everywhere she starts talking about it. That structure, she goes, structure because they're black, because they're Latino, because they won't, and she says this explicitly in the editorial that Cenk was talking about, they won't assimilate to American culture and their families are broken. These are assumptions that she makes, and something that the Dean of Students himself even brought up. If we go to graphic number 35, he said black students assigned to her class in their first week at Penn Law may reasonably wonder whether their professor has already come to a conclusion about their presence, performance, and potential for success in law school and thereafter. And if we go to the previous graphic, he said, I just want to clarify something. It is imperative for me as dean to state that these claims themselves, the statistics she seems to be citing, are false. Black students have graduated in the top of the class at Penn Law. And contrary to any suggestion otherwise, black students at Penn Law are extremely successful both inside and outside the classroom, in the job market, and in their careers.
Well, I want to say one other thing that's factual. Again, to Gina's point, if she just stated facts, well then had an interesting conversation around it, that's fruitful, that's productive, that's interesting, right? But she didn't even get her facts right. So when she said in that little snippet that we saw that there is a diversity requirement for Penn Law Review, the dean came out and said, no, there isn't. She just made that up. No, there's only the people who score at the top make it into the law review. So it's just not true.
She mentions also in that it's an hour-long interview, which is fascinating. You should watch it if you like, you know, masochism. Anyways, she goes into this prevalence of identity politics, and a lot of people have mentioned that in the recent election, identity politics is like a hot-button issue. But she thinks that identity politics fetishizes resources, and when it comes down to it, the people who are talking about the identity politics she's mentioning, they're just identifying problems. she doesn't want to identify the actual problems and the causes and how to fix them. She just always seems to funnel things back into this like, don't ask what we can do to help you help yourself ethos that just is bastardized in so many ways by white supremacists everywhere.
Do you believe, just to sort of keep this like super accountable, and as Ben has called me before, willfully obtuse, which I appreciate it. I love him to death. Do you believe she's a white supremacist?
Yeah, I mean, by the definition of it, I believe she's a white supremacist. It just
because immigrant. I mean, it's been in the news many times. Immigrants do go to Germany. They do go to Denmark.
Well, listen,
they do go to,
there's academics. Like that's an academic thing, and I know academics, teachers, professors who've been doing it for 50 years, who are like, well, here are the statistics. And some of them just leave them as statistics. The others just pull everything toward this theory they've been working on for 40 years, this book they've been writing for 40 years. And that's the lens through which they've been taught to see everything. And it's at work in the previous story we talked about. Like people in Arkansas pull it toward the lens where they typically see things. And it's a shame in academics, because in academics, you're supposed to be looking at the facts.
Right.
And letting that drive the discussion.
So I want to make a couple points about what Gina said, because it's an interesting point. So she's like, oh, well, people are going to white European countries like immigration, but that's an economic issue. So for example, there's a lot of immigrants that come to Turkey. I use Turkey as an example from time to time because I'm a Turkish American.
What do you
so
know about?
Right?
Oh, sorry.
and there's immigrants from the Middle East and the immigrants from Central Asia. Do they come because they think Turks are the superior race? They really know what they're doing, right? I'm sure Turks think that, but that's not why they come, because Turkey is slightly better off economically than the countries they came from, and they could make it to Turkey, and they're like, okay, great. And that's why they come. It doesn't have to do with race, etc. And so now, look, you go real back in the history as to why the European countries are better off economically, and so is Japan, for example. It's partly because of the raiding culture. They raided the southern hemisphere, took a lot of the money. Again, not related to race. So did Japan, right? And so did the Mongols. They were known for raiding. And for the moment being, the Mongols were incredibly rich when they took over all those areas, etc. And so that is part of why people immigrate to there. And is she a white supremacist? Look, the terms, like, conservatives make us call them racist from time to time by being so goddamn racist. Like, I don't wanna, those are loaded terms, and white supremacists, I know a lot of people get turned off. They hear that word and they wanna run for the hills. But in her case, she literally said, we're superior. Now you could say, hey, you know what? She didn't mean white people, she just meant rich people. I don't, okay, fine, but I don't know that makes it that much better. In some ways, it might make it worse, because she just has disdain for anyone who isn't already wealthy. And it's just sickening. So when she looks at a white kid from the hollers of West Virginia, and she thinks, yeah, I'm superior, right?
Those terms are tough just because they are so loaded right now. So I don't know that I'm going to go there, but I am going to say that her credibility is absolutely called into question at this point. If you're a black student in her class, how can you trust that she is going to treat you fairly? So I think the university actually handled it pretty well, and I think that they did what they should have done. I don't know that she should be banned from campus for, sharing these very controversial views, because I think that plays into the playbook that these people on the far right want. That's exactly what they want.
Yeah, and beyond that, she's tenured, and tenured is tenured, and we got to stick with that for important reasons. But last thing, to challenge her facts and her view of the world, has anyone ever tracked how heritage? Legacy students do in these colleges, because they're filled to the rim with legacy students. Exactly. Legacy students are, their parents went to that school. So I think I read a study recently, now 40% of Harvard students are legacy students. So that is actually the biggest affirmative action there is. And the reason they do it is for money. If the biggest indicator whether you will donate to a school is if 2 generations of your family have gone to that school. So it's all about financial motivations. I bet I would be really surprised if you tracked legacy students if they didn't way underperform, because they didn't earn their way into that school like the other 60% of Harvard. So, but nobody ever tracks that, because the assumption is rich people are great, poor people have something wrong with their culture.
If you want to get the whole Young Turks show every single day, become a member, tytnetwork.com/join.
And once you do, you'll be saying,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
Or you might say,
I think it's weird.
Or you might say,
oops.
No, that won't be that one. It won't be that one. It'll be great, trust me. TUITnetwork.com/join.